Okay. And now I'm watching all these supposed conspiracy theories that it wasn't just that guy on the 32nd floor of the Mandalay Bay Hotel with all his arsenal that shot out. People are now saying there were gunmen on the ground that they're not showing us. People are showing videos that supposedly other locations in Vegas that same night were being attacked. That it's more than a lone gunman theory. Does that sound familiar? Because there was controversy about the not lone gunman theory when Kennedy was assassinated back in the 60s. If anyone remembers that controversy, I feel like it's kind of come full circle again with this particular situation now. Very devastating that happened. There were many artists, I guess, not many, but a few artists who had canceled upcoming shows in Vegas due to that happening. I know Janet Jackson had her concert last night there in Sacramento, Golden One, and some people had posted video that they showed or pictures that the arena didn't fill up, and some were speculating that it's because Janet Jackson's following of her fan base isn't as strong, especially because she had canceled 2 years ago, which I remember because I bought tickets because she ended up getting pregnant. But honestly, I'm wondering if there are people that bought tickets and didn't want to come out because they just feared being out because of what happened in Vegas. Fear's the son of a bitch. When you have a fear of dying and you believe that could happen, it's like people that won't swim in the ocean because they think they're going to get bitten by a shark because they do not feel safe in open water where they can't see the bottom, where they can't see out. It's kind of like the same thing. I'm wondering. I was told later on that the venue filled up. I know tonight it's Imagine Dragons that are playing there. I know all this, by the way, because I drive for Lyft, so I get text message updates when there's certain places that we as Lyft drivers should go to make money. So every time there's some sort of an event happening in Sacramento, I get the text, even though I'm here in Maui. And I'm wondering if the same thing's going to happen tonight at Golden One with Imagine Dragons, if the venue will be hesitant in filling up because of the fear with that. You know, so now it's the gun law, and people want stricter rules with gun control. I know in Nevada, I learned that they don't have laws in place that restrict owning automatic weapons. They just don't. You can possess an automatic weapon, an assault weapon, like the guns that were used in Vegas, firing off magazines that hold 50 rounds. Not 50 rounds, sorry, 50 caliber. Was it like 20 in the magazine? 30 in the magazine? I don't even know. I mean, I've never shot an assault weapon. I'm not in the military. That's always the first thing that people seem to jump to, is if, you know, the belief that if we had stricter gun rules and regulations in place, it might have prevented that from happening. You know, where one person, as so they're saying that's the one person that they have can take out and kill so many, because I believe that the count was 59 dead and nearly 300 injured. And I knew people that went to that concert and were in Vegas, so it was a very personal thing for me immediately, because I saw in my Facebook feed of friends that had mentioned they were at that event, but they were safe. They took pictures of their injuries. One person who's on my Facebook page, Lisa Fine, you may recognize her name because she was interviewed later on. She showed pictures of her knees because she darted under the bleachers because all they heard were guns firing. Sharon, going back to the blood ban. I can't give blood. Sharon Gavin says, I can't give blood because I'm stuffed up all the time with allergies. Oh. I did not know that. Because of allergies, you can't give blood. There's so many restrictions on why you can or can't give blood. That's interesting. Sorry to hear that, Sharon. I'm sure you would love to be able to help if you could. My blood, I'm A positive, which is it's not a common blood type, but those who are A positive need it because they can't take any other. I believe we can't take any other, I think. I have to read up on that. So I just always say I have A+ blood, and I think that's awesome on my part. But going back to the gun thing, you know, Someone had a meme also, and it kind of made me ponder, and you can let me know what you think about this. They had a meme that said, you know how there's a panic with some people that believe Muslims should be banned over a few terrorists, they say, but let's not be so hasty to ban guns over a few, mass killings. Which, that's a small percentage of people that feel that way. Let's be real. Small percentage of people, right? That feel that way. But it was an interesting, kind of an ironic twist. But what I saw in that, when I saw that meme, was that it shows how very few people who agree with certain statements are what get blown up the most. Because if we asked everybody, I'm willing to bet the majority of the people don't feel Muslims should be banned over terrorism. And I'm sure the majority of us don't feel we should lay off being more responsible with guns based on a handful of killings. I, for one, sure, I'm all about having more stricter laws in place. I personally don't see why an individual person would need assault weapons. Unless they're just wanting to collect them. Some people collect stuff all the time. Maybe they have an affiliation with weapons and they like them. It doesn't necessarily mean they're going to use them on people, and they like them. But where my heart and my head always go when it comes to when situations like this happen, because for those of you who do know, I'm a trained martial artist. I'm a former athlete. I might not be as in shape now as I was in the back of the day when I trained, and I'm not always on high alert, but I'm somewhat aware of my surroundings anywhere that I go. I will immediately look for where the exits are. I immediately assess the people in the room for that brief moment that I walk into a public place, whether it's a restaurant. Now, going into somewhere like the Golden One Center, which I was recently at to see Lady Gaga, since it was my first time, it's a very huge place. I quickly assessed where the exits were, the flow of the traffic of people when we were up in our seats. Okay, because I had my kid with me. If I had to go somewhere and we had to leave, because now I'm not going to think worst case scenario and someone's firing out rounds in the arena, but if an emergency happens where something catches on fire or a piece of it, like we can have an earthquake because it is California, I try to think in my head, okay, where would be a safe place to be? That's just what I do. And it worries me that there are it could be a lot of people who don't think along those lines of just all around safety. For instance, show of hands of how many families, whether you do it now or you did it in the past, you had your regular monthly, let's get together kids, family, and let's go over our escape route in the house. If the house catches on fire, Billy, what do you do? Show of hands if you've been through that with your family. Show of hands if you've been through that at school. I think the last job that I worked where I had to go through that as a safety regulation was when I worked for Mission Linen Supply. And we had to go through that once a month. We had the training where the alarms, they let us know that we were going to have testing the alarms, and everyone had to know where to exit and where to wait. I was the office manager. The first two things I had to grab were the guest registry, right? Like if someone comes in as a guest that signs in, and the updated list, which it was my responsibility to update every week, of employees. And I had to go out and I had to do the roll call. And I had to do this for over 100 people because I had my office staff, and then I had the drivers, and then I had the plant workers. And that was 2007. Anyone else do that in your job? So that's what I'm talking about. We, as Americans, have the freedom, right? And that's what our troops fight for, the military fight for, so we have these freedoms. But let's be real. When you go into a movie theater, or you go into a public place for music, do you look for the exits to be safe? A lot of these buildings are supposed to post conspicuously emergency routes. Wouldn't it be nice, though, if they sort of pointed that out instead of just making a liability, like it's up to you, and if you didn't see it, you can't sue. Like, because California is such a sue happy state. I know this happened in Nevada, but I can only focus on California law. If we just helped each other out, if we helped one another out, and we kind of pointed to that sort of thing, you know, here I was when I first arrived in Maui on Saturday, and I was going to a concert. Now, I didn't bother to mention any of this because I didn't want to shed any light on it, but originally at this concert, it was supposed to be Damian Marley who was headlining with J Boog, Ellie Mack, and this DJ, I forgot his name, okay? 2 days before the show, Damian Marley canceled. The concert still went on with J Boog, Ellie Mack. They had some different artists open, and then this DJ that played in between. So basically they bumped up J Boog as the headliner. Damian Marley was ass and elbows. No explanation. They just said situation not out of control. By the time we get to the concert, they announced that it was because Damian Marley supposedly decided to bail on the concert in Maui so that he could be on an episode of SNL because Jay-Z called him up and said, hey, why don't you be on the show with me? And supposedly his people are saying it was giving him a bigger platform for reggae music, yada, yada, yada. Bolshevik, whatever. I support music. I kept my $60 ticket. I went to the concert. It was a good time. But what I found that I really appreciated was that the venue was very big on letting you know about Damian. From the moment you got the ticket and you looked online and they registered it and said you can get a full refund if you wanted to, didn't argue it, to when you showed up at the concert, there were several people every 20 feet with signs that let you know Damian was not going to be there. So you could still refund your ticket as long as you didn't go through the gate, hand it in, and get stamped. And I liked that. I liked that as a community, they were very good at announcing that sort of thing. What if we had that sort of care when it came to the safety of everybody? Here are your exits in case of an emergency. I know they don't want to say that because they want to alert people and make people feel bad, but let's be real. I would have rather had that than what happened in Vegas. Because those people did not look like they knew where to go. We all were subjected to those videos, as horrific as they were. Because everyone had their cell phones, right? Because people like to live stream the concerts. They like to show everyone where they're at. They like to Snapchat it, like to IG live it. Okay, I did it. I did Facebook Live to Ellie Mack on the Women's International Music Network page. So everyone had these videos that they could share later that went viral. And you got to see firsthand the panic of the people, the ones obviously that couldn't make it, that were the first hit with the bullets. They couldn't help it. But everyone else scattering, and it just became this clusterfuck of panic because no one knew where to go. Because we as a society are based on tragedy, and we would rather wait for an emergency to happen than do a little preventive action, preventive maintenance, and be a Debbie Downer to the mood. That's how I feel about it. I would just like for everybody to be a little more alert, just for that little bit. You don't have to be in a state of panic to be alert. It could just be part of your everyday life, right? That's how I feel about it. Like when I flew here, my second flight, I picked the seat next to the exit. And I agreed that if there were an emergency, I would be willing to help people. And I got all the leg room in the world, but I also know that I'm natural at helping people, and I have no problem staying on the plane and assisting with everyone else to get them off the plane. That didn't ruin my trip one bit. That didn't make me all panicked and freaked out. I just knew, all right, I'm choosing to sit in this chair. I'm choosing to sit next to the emergency hatch. I know that God forbid something happened to this plane and we have to make an emergency landing. I have agreed I'm going to help people get out. That's all it takes. Airplanes do it all the time. They have these updated videos now that are so cool that show you about your emergency exits and how to use your flotation device. And if there's a situation with the air quality, oxygen masks drop, and they always tell you put yours on first before you assist anyone else, because you need to be coherent and okay before you can assist your kids or anyone else. I have it memorized, and I can't tell you the last time I was on a plane, because they do it so often. Has it affected anyone wanting to fly? No. So then just do the same thing. That's just my take on it. Anyways. God, this feels like a Debbie Downer of a conversation, huh? And here I am in Hawaii, and I'm talking about Debbie Downer stuff. And I think those who had piped in, if anyone else wanted to pipe in on the subject, please do so. I was kind of hoping there might have been anybody that wanted to pop on and share. I know I have some friends that are very much NRA supporters and think it's dumb or ridiculous for people to think that every time a mass shooting happens, we should definitely focus on gun control. I actually had a friend did a post, something he was being really sarcastic at something about my gun never jumped out of its holster once because his whole. I had to figure that out because he was being so, to me, encrypted. But basically, what he was saying is guns don't kill people; people do. And this is true. But a semi-automatic or an automatic weapon can kill way more people quickly than a single man with his bare hands. You'd have to be Bruce Lee to kill 59 people with your bare hands. In the amount of time that it took for this gentleman to kill. Why am I calling him a gentleman? He's an asshole. But this asshole to kill 59 people in a matter of minutes from how far away? Whoever it was that did what they did, how far away? So, like I said, I was hoping someone might have popped on here and wanted to give their honest opinion on how they felt about should gun control be stricter in the United States? Should their regulations be tighter? They could, but it doesn't mean someone can't get them illegal. See, that's the other part too. It's just that just means people are going to get it illegally. So what can we do as a nation? If we can't control, if you and I can't control what someone who's mentally unstable decides to do, whether they use automatic weapons, bombs. People have used bombs. We don't have no regulation for that. Since we can't control that, you know what we can control? Ourselves. Our mindset. Being alert. Being aware. Having a little training. Whether that's just in safety and regulations rules. You want to train in martial arts. You want to train and be comfortable using a gun. Getting rid of our own fear. Tammy says it hurts her heart that there are people out there blaming the victims. Is that true? I don't think that I've read that or said that. If you mind piping in a little bit more on that, Tammy, and you can tell me what you mean by that. Like I said, I've done very little of watching the news since I've been here in Maui because I'm just like really enjoying the relaxation of the ocean and the weather. I think that's really, but going back to it, you and I, as ourselves, can just be more aware, more alert. We can have training in something, whether it be martial arts, whether it be handling guns, whether it be safety. Maybe we can petition that public places should have more like rules in place of alerting the public, the general public, on safety. Emergency exits. Have them, way more of them, right up front. A map. Hand people a map. Well, no, I guess that, if you look at that, it's probably going to create a lot of rubble because people will just throw it on the ground. But at least direct people and let them know, here are your emergency exits in case if something happens. You know, here are your emergency exits. The planes, when they have emergency, the floor lights up and the exit signs light up. Maybe they can have things like that to make it more easily accessible. I don't know. This was an outdoor concert. I don't know. Oh, since it was a country concert. Okay, you know what? And they deserve it. That's just somebody being an asshole on the internet. Because that is stuff you know they would not say to anyone's face. I honestly could care less. When I see people pipe that stuff online, I'll be honest with you, it does not rile me up because it's just someone typing on a keyboard who's hiding behind their computer. End of story. I don't care. If they can't say it to my face or somebody's face and own up to that attitude, they're cowards. It doesn't matter. Cowards are just jerks. It doesn't matter. But going back to that, I think that's what should happen. I mean, I guess we can impose the stricter laws, but people can get guns illegally, so it doesn't help that. Let's be real. Let's just not be complacent in our own lives as humans, as individuals. Let's just not be complacent about things. And let's be more community-oriented and be more supportive of one another. That's my take on it. Someone from CBS was fired for saying something similar. That's interesting. I need to look that up. Anyhow, I'm going to go ahead and close this out. I feel like this is such a Debbie Downer. I want to thank those who piped on in, and I'm glad this sounds clearer. Sorry I couldn't be outside, but so what is it now? Almost, it's after 8:30 your time if you're in California and you're watching. Thank you for piping in. And if you want to put your opinions below and I can go back to the videos, feel free to do so. Just all I ask is that you do it with respect, professionalism, maturity, and I'll read it out. And yeah, just know you are loved and you are appreciated. And Oprah said it best when she was on Ellen today, to remember to just celebrate ordinary circumstances, because as Americans, that's our freedom and our privilege to have everyday ordinary circumstances. Don't let something like this grapple you in fear that you feel you can't enjoy a concert and you can't just go out into public for fear. Try not to live your life in fear, because when these things happen, they don't happen as often as they don't happen, if that makes sense. The media is always going to glorify that stuff. Don't let it take over your heart. Life is awesome. Life is beautiful. Life is what you make of it. I hope you all have a wonderful Wednesday, and remember every day that you wake up, you determine how your day will go, so manifest to be your best, and enjoy the rest of your Wednesday.